What's up? Welcome back to Cryptographics. I hope you guys are excited because we have an amazing stream ready for you guys today. We're going to be going over, and when I mean I got three guys who I have no idea how their brains fit in their head. Their brains are so big. Let's come on. I'm going to introduce you guys one at a time. You got Crypto Vince, we got Crypto Kool-Aid, and Gifford Ware. Guys, welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for being here.
What's going on?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
So if you guys are unfamiliar with these guys, so Giff has been I met you in the ICOSA chat room. This man has been on the top of the forefront of every question I've had, asking the question that is inside the question that I've had. Crypto Vince has been, I've seen you since the beginning of Hex, since I got in. It sounds like you've been in for a long time, and now you're on the forefront as well. And Crypto Kool-Aid, this is the second time we streamed together, and man, everything you've ever had to say that I've heard has been great. I love your analogies as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. So real quick here, let's just hop into chat and make sure everyone's getting comfortable here. Got Crypto Military Vet. Thanks for being here. We got Alan for the win. Cryptographics for the win. Hey, man, you guys are the ones that make this happen. Thank you guys for being here. Sith Master Hex, welcome. Hex Metal Barbie. Godfather J6, my brother, what's up? Welcome back. We got Hexes. Okay, I'm going to start your question. We'll get there in a minute. Crypto Kool-Aid, you're in chat too. Let's go. We got Crypto Heartbeat in chat. Let's go. Matt, good to see you in here. Flat Earth Underground, welcome back. It's been a minute. All right, Uncle Will. Oh yeah, this is going to be late. If you guys are looking for all of the information when it comes to the game theory, we're going to dive in as deep as we possibly can into every single aspect of what you have to look at when it comes to making the best possible decisions for when ICOSA launches. Full screen brains. Yeah, there's a bunch of brains in this. And you guys are, yeah, I'm so excited.
And big old shout out to Sith Master Hex. He's one of my oldest friends and onboards.
Oh, really? No way. Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
We went to high school together a long time ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, we got KS. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Hex Pimp. We got a bunch of people in here. Let's go. Yeah. Got James Sonato, Mudhog, Kings Meadow, Big Kahuna. Nice. Okay, let's go. Yeah. So we kind of want to start off the stream a little bit more casual, but what I was thinking here is let's get into the stream, guys, with a quick question that Hexes has. So I'm thinking correctly. The HSI stakes we bring to ICOSA are the ones we created in the Hedra and DApp with new Hex.
Correct. Yes, because when you're using, think about my old analogy of carrier pigeon maximalism, fax machine maximalism, and high-speed internet. When you did the original analog go.hex.win stakes, there's no wrapper. It's analog. With an HSI stake, you're wrapping the analog ability to actually go and do the stake. So again, it's like an Uber like car versus driving your own car. So if you did from the old Hedron site, it's still a wrapped HSI. Now with the ICOSA.pro, it's a new wrapper that has all of the GUI for everything all in one inclusive spot.
Right. That's very well said. Very, very, very well said. So I think this is a great place to ask you guys. So individually, what's the thing that's got you excited the most about Hedron and ICOSA and this whole upcoming launch? Vince, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, as somebody that's been in Hex day one, I think this really is a game changer in a way that I think even most Hex OGs that got around that are also in day one Hexagons probably haven't realized yet. And essentially, kind of the short way I've tried to explain to some of my inner circle and closest friends is that like it's instead of just having one money printer, now we'll essentially have four. So and we'll have a new front end as Kool-Aid alluded to earlier. And you just manage everything from all from one central place. So I think this kind of marks a new era in Hex history for all of us. The people that have figured out that this is something that really changes the game.
Yeah, so, absolutely, yeah. It does. And like you were saying actually in the back room, but you brought this up as well, that this is all getting doubled.
Yeah.
Technically tripled because
with ETH POW?
Oh, the ETH merge.
Right. Right. So we might be getting triple with the whole like it's just like, oh my God. Giff, what's your favorite thing? What's the thing that's got you most excited about the launch of ICOSA and the whole staking platform?
Sure, yeah. There's many things, but I'm just gonna pick one. and that is the new way to stake. Like, this method of staking we have not seen before, where it's just based on your staker class, like how much of the supply you own is going to dictate just a minimum stake length, no maximum. These can just keep going and going and going and going. And how people use these going forward is going to be fascinating. All the different strategies people are going to use, like, do they add to it, right? Do they end them and try to compound? You know, what strategy is everyone going to use? It's going to be fascinating.
Gonna be extremely fascinating. It's crazy, you know, and we're going to get into so much of it today, but it's crazy how many of the seemingly small mechanics have such incredible and major what's the word? There's so much that you have to look into them and to figure out like the ramifications of everything across all the different pieces to this huge puzzle. And it is a big puzzle, really, because I mean, it seems like there are very few people that have fully figured it out in the grand scheme of this ecosystem. So, you know, it's so cool. You're right. These small things, seemingly small things, are actually huge. And Crypto Kool-Aid, what's the thing that's got you most excited about ICOSA?
I mean, I saw it way back when, and all the utility of using a wrapper to actually do different things. I've been trying to talk about that for, I think, the longest time. And a lot of people didn't really concept on how different mechanics weigh and pull against each other. Now, I said it way back when that we needed a pack mandate, or we needed something to counterbalance the amount of dumpability that people got from the bonus. But just Alex hadn't gotten there yet. It's not like it's Team Hedron. It's just Alex. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he can just whip this stuff out so fast is mind-blowing. But it's more added utility that adds utility. It's like changing a knife and turning it into a spork, a spoon, and everything else at the same time.
Yep. Very well said. Very, very, very well said. So where are we going? In the chat here, I've got a bunch of different topics. So guys, before we start on these topics, this stream is not going to be a basic stream. You know, there's been so much content. I know Sloth and I and many others have done many videos by now. And if you want to learn the basics, go to either my channel or Sloth's channel. And who else has got great ICOSA and Hedron content as well that I can refer to?
Coffee does good stuff too.
Right. Crypto Coffee does great stuff as well.
Identity Block as well.
Identity Block. So I'll put them in the chat here, guys. So Crypto Coffee. If you should know Crypto Coffee by now, hopefully. But Crypto Coffee is great for the basics. Crypto Sloth's got great content for the basics as well, and the advanced stuff. I have a lot of stuff as well. And if you want to learn that, go there. This stream is going to be a lot more advanced, and we're going to be talking the nitty gritty, the stuff that you might not be able to understand if you don't have those basic mechanics down and understood. So with that being said, though, let's get into our first topic today, guys. Let's talk about, so when it comes to the Hedron and ICOSA pools, what are the pros and cons that you see to going either direction, heavily or evenly weighted? Like, what are the things that you consider when it comes to those pools, and why you maybe want to go to one or the other, or maybe do both?
Well, kind of like elaborate what you're asking on pools.
Right.
Are you talking about the NFT side of holding, something that you can wrap around, or are you talking about just staking Hedron or staking ICOSA? Because there's a difference.
Specifically ICOSA and Hedron for this example.
Sure. Well, the single-sided staking Hedron will get you the ICOSA, but you are locked based on your wallet level. And I still haven't done any deep dive research because I've been busy if it's more of a slow drip. Whereas if you sacrifice for ICOSA to get it immediately, you immediately have the asset. It's like not putting it on layaway.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So Giff, you said something earlier in either one of the VC chats or the voice chats in ICOSA Telegram. I think it was, but you mentioned, and I've heard this, like the Hedron pool is going to be more of the degen pool, is what some people have been saying. to put it in a great, to portray it correctly, obviously.
Sure.
What does that mean? Well, why is that even a thing that's floating around as an idea? And what's the scoop on that?
So that wasn't my terminology, but
right. Okay, sorry.
I get it. I understand where it's coming from. And basically where that comes from is the idea that the first kind of wave of news that came out about ICOSA is now you have a place to stake your Hedron, right?
Mhm.
So we're probably going to see that pool get saturated first, right?
Right.
It's going to be harder to obtain a bigger piece of the pie of the daily yield that comes in, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so now you're looking at a lot of guys who come in and they're staking right there. And I think this new concept of the minimum stake length is going to be foreign to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And you may end up seeing a lot of people say, oh, that might be the pool where people like to end stake early to try to pull some of that ICOSA so that then they can get into the ICOSA pool. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
they might start playing that game back and forth. And when that happens, they're going to be burning a lot of their principal and their interest or their yield that they've been getting. And then that gets, it gets fed into the loop system, right? Back into more yield again. So I see that as being probably the most used pool at the beginning. I think the ICOSA pool is going to be hugely more advantageous at the beginning. And that's just because, like, how do you get ICOSA to stake it? Like, it
Mhm.
starts at 0. There ain't nobody with it when it starts. Nobody. It's 0.
Mhm.
So like Kool-Aid was saying, you got to sell your HSI to the contract to get ICOSA on day one. That's really the only way you can get it on day one. So it's going to be a more competitive pool. So if you're looking for a bigger chunk of the pie, I mean, that's a good place to go. And I especially like it because it yields 2 tokens. So I think that's pretty sweet.
Pretty hard to argue with that. Vince, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, Gifford pretty much took the words right out of my mouth because, like, I was thinking, like, all the hexagons, they still have some hexagons are even still figuring out that hedron exists, and so they haven't even minted their hedron at all. So, you have lots of people that just sitting on huge reserves of hedron, and yeah, the main pitch that I've seen going around is that now you have a place to stake your hedron. So I'm thinking that like the hedron staking pool is just going to be oversaturated with tons of people, and so yeah, as Giver pointed out, you get a small chunk of the pie. So also I've when I've tried to talk to friends about the whole system, I'm kind of gauging sentiment too, and people seem to be pretty hesitant to part with their hex stakes, even when they're in HSI form. So I'm thinking, like people understand the opportunity cost of sending in their HSIs for ICOSA. So I think that hesitancy means that naturally more people or less people will join that pool. So yeah, I'm thinking probably a more lucrative play to go would be to do the HSI buyback and then get the liquid ICOSA and stake it in the ICOSA staking pool.
Yeah.
Don't forget, there's also one more thing where no one's talking about the AMR bonus because now the ICOSA system is kind of on top of that, but that will still exist for minting. Now, granted, what that ratio will be is something that someone will have to actually calculate out. But I'm sure, I know on the ICOSA.app, it says 0 HMR or AMR bonus, so it's actually going to tell you when it pops.
Yeah.
Just for the viewers, can you define what the AMR bonus is, just in case they missed that detail?
I believe when it's over leveraged out hedron reaches a particular level, I think it's like 50% or something like that, there's an additional bonus that kicks in for that amount of time. And if you mint during that window, then you get that bonus. But whether that window is a day, a week, an hour, a fire drill, who knows, because it hasn't gotten to the 2-year marker that I've always said that this needs to catch up to a T-share because it's the echo of a T-share.
Mm-hmm. And it's always moving, and so is the price of hex. So it's got two tails to chase, essentially.
Well, yeah, because as the T-share gets more and more rare, that's the first thing that Alex said that perked my ears was tradable wrapped hex stakes and B share, which is both the correct answer. Because not everyone can afford a T-share, especially at the top of the last bull with us when it was 10 grand a T-share.
Right.
So you have to look at in the mindset of B share since that's what's available unless you get a dip.
Mm-hmm.
But that variable of T-share is what mints your hedron. So the whales that have the hedron now basically own all the mintable hedron unless someone else comes in and makes some T-share. So that's setting the availability of where the pool is going to go eventually.
Right. I got a good question here from where is it here? Is it this one? What is the minimum percentage? Just so we're not getting too far behind the questions here. What is the minimum percentage of the What's a Pool to make it worth it? Just afraid that whales are FOMOing into this one. What's your guys' thoughts on that? On the What's a Pool?
Well, it's all based on the same principle that Maxi was based on, right? So Maxi was a particular number, and that would be distributed throughout the whole pool. Now, those particular inserts of cash that you put in per NFT, that gives you your percentage of the pool. The same thing with Maxi. It works exactly the same. The difference is the token itself can be liquidated at any time to reap its rewards, whereas Maxi trades at a premium based on the e-hex dump and the Maxi price increase. So that's really inherently the difference. Whereas the NFT itself, you can trade it, you can sell it like you could with Maxi, or you can execute it. Right, a wrapper is like a present. You can just open it up, right, and it's just a one-time opening, and that's essentially all it is.
What are your guys' thoughts, Vince or Gifford, on the What's a Pool? On the minimum percentage of What's a Pool to make it worth it? That's an interesting way to put it. Is worth it. You know, it's hard to ever like quantify and use that as something to run with. But
plus, you won't really know what percentage you end up being until everybody's piled in and the 14-day window closes. So
yeah,
I mean, I think maybe you should base your decision more on just having some exposure to the pool, and also leaving enough left over to participate in the rest of the staking pools as well. So
totally.
Yeah, that percentage that you're talking about, that minimum percentage, that will change. That will only go up over time, because once that pool is locked in, nobody can dilute you anymore. So the only thing that can happen is your percentage of that pool increases over time, and that's going to be a direct reflection on how many people come out and how long you stay in. So it depends on your time horizon. What's your time horizon on that? That will answer that question pretty quick.
I think was it you that made that was telling me about the staking ladders for not staking ladder, but the what is it, like an NFT ladder? Yeah. So I don't want to take your spotlight on that one. Yeah, please. That's a great strategy. I think it's an awesome way to look at that here.
Sure. Yeah. So one method that a lot of people have been kicking around is you just make an NFT staking ladder on that. And the idea behind it is you just take your total amount that you're willing to invest into this pool, and you just split it up by however many years you want to go. So like say you're used to Hex, so you're like, I want to do a 15-year ladder. Just get you 15 NFTs, all the same length, and then you just sit on it and you wait every year, and you either choose to mint at that year or you don't choose to mint. You just push the ladder out further. The cool part about all these staking pools is, unlike other pools that we're used to, you have a minimum stake length and a maximum, right? Because you set your stake, like let's use Hex for example. You set your stake for say 6 years, and then the max length is 6 years and 2 weeks essentially, right? Because you're going to start bleeding out. So with these pools, you can just choose to let it sit. So it's gonna change up the dynamic a lot, and you got to kind of learn to look at it from a different angle when you go to stake and put in deposit into these pools.
Totally. I mean, like the thing that I mentioned today in a video release was, we don't know what's going to be possible with, collateralizing assets, like digital assets. So, I mean, these assets are always going to be going up. You got one that you're holding on to for many, many years and you don't sell. If you throw $1 in the pot and 5 years down the road, you're one of the last 25 or 30 people in the pool. You could be getting a whole hell of a lot of yield on a daily basis if you just set it and forget it, like one of the strategies I named in the video. And so there's so many ways to attack this. You can do it so that way you can toss $1 in, or whatever's a minimum amount of money where you can throw it into the pool and forget about it for a while. Obviously, you still have all your security stuff lined up where you're not going to forget where that is, so you can access it, but you throw in minimum amount so that way you can just forget it and come back to it. Maybe you set a Google reminder or something like that in like 3 years or 4 years, however long down the road you want, and you come check it again.
But I think the easiest way to correlate it is if you think about collecting old baseball cards, like I'm 40, right? So back in the day, you bought old baseball cards and you just didn't open them, right? And you bought a box of top, whatever the hell it is, or, a giant book of them. And you're just like, I wonder if there's anything good in here. Can't open them yet. And so when you do decide to open it, you'll pierce the piñata and everything will come out. And then it's your choice when you do that, which is also a safety mechanism in case you need to go to the hospital or something comes up, or you could endow it to a kid or something like that. So if, let's just say, you're elderly and you wanted to take this now, you know that this is a transferable to a different wallet. Another nice thing is because it's an NFT, if your wallet's compromised, you can immediately get rid of it. You can also transfer it to a hot wallet later or a cold wallet if you needed to do something. So it's the actual utility of the device that's really special about both wrapped stakes and wrapped technology on top of wrapped stakes, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, it's like a wrapped hex stake, but you can take all of the yield you get out at any time. You know, you can, exactly like you said. That's so cool. It's such a unique prop. I wonder how Alex came up with that. You know, I don't, maybe you never know. I'm not going to say anything. You never know. Something might happen later in the stream, but I wonder how he came up with half of this stuff, because some of these ideas are, the WhatsApp is so cool, you know, and even coming up with the linking tokens to the B share is such a wild idea to me that I would love to have him on to ask those questions at some point. So do you guys know how he came up with it? Is there a story behind how he came up with it?
I wouldn't.
We kind of talk a little bit high level on different stuff, because both of us have been talking about this kind of thing for a while. Because Alex thinks very, very properly like a game theory person. Like, he really thinks about mechanics versus thinking about someone that doesn't understand. It's kind of like a long time ago, I used to say that the OA is like taking oil off the field in the game Civilization. No one else can ever move into the industrial age. And that is correct. People look at it like, oh, they're holding all this coins. Like, no, he's holding all the oil. No one else will ever be able to move into the industrial age. And then they can never move into the nuclear age. They can never move into the sci-fi age of that particular game mechanic. And so I've been waiting for someone to code to be able to do that type of stuff, so we can actually start to build the utility of wrappers, because that is fundamentally the root of the next ability of what we're all going to be using on a highway of everything. Right. I said it way back when that an NFT is essentially a social security number, right? That's all it is. Social security number, just like I live in an apartment. That's my address, just like my wallet. But I can have an apartment, or I can have a roommate. That's another NFT, right? And those NFTs can act on sub NFTs, oracles, DAOs, and other utilities on how they interact with each other, both with opening on a time lock or giving interoperability later on down the road. Yeah. It has nothing to do with silly monkeys. That's the Pet Rock problem. But look what came out of petrock.com, Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle, like all the things that actually transcended and tested the weight of what came further, right? What came after fax machines, high-speed internet, you know what I mean? Wireless and all the rest of that good stuff. That's well said. I like that. I want to stop real quick and just answer a quick question. Then what I want to do, I want to hop back into the ICOSA pool, and we'll start talking about the auctions after day 90 and what that means from day one of launch all the way to once those auctions come live after this. But real quick here, I don't know if you guys have the calculations or know really what gas fees are involved with, starting any of these stakes. How has Alex built the code? Like, how's the gas consumption on starting and ending these stakes and NFTs? I don't read the code, but I've talked to him about it before. He basically optimized everything to have the most advantageous gas amount of time for however he built everything. That was kind of one of the bigger problems with Hex originally as a 15-year stake, because it's using the Ethereum EVM aspect of it, that it gets too expensive. But since Hedron's staking already is using Hex's staking, I believe, it's leveraging all of that math already there. So that way the optimized stake, again, it's all seesaws, right? So he's already grepping that information, because Hedron's based on a T-share, right? Caboose, a steam engine, right? So the Caboose doesn't have to worry about getting the cow out of the way of the train. Right. That's
also cool. A fantastic innovation, right? Like there's no more read on disk function, right? Where it has to calculate every day. It's already built in.
Yep. It's also a very similar aspect of what Steph did with the Gnosis safe, right? Remember, a Gnosis safe is essentially a hex stake that's wrapped in another partition of Gnosis, which can actually be upgraded and utilized in a different fashion. So it's going to that next evolution. This what Blu-ray and what was the other one?
HD
was it-
DVD.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. All right. So real quick here, guys, let's switch over to the day one launch to the 90-day period. So what's roughly going to happen? So day one, obviously, is the HSIs. People are going to mint a bunch of ICOSA. Those HSIs are going to go up for auction. So when it comes to those auctions on day 90, what's the biggest things that people need to consider on that day? Because obviously, you're going to have, if you're participating in that ICOSA pool, you get Hedron and ICOSA. But on day 90 or 91, I should say, when these auctions complete, then you're going to have a few things happening. One, there's Hedron being used to burn. That Hedron is going to go to contribute towards ICOSA, and Hedron going into that ICOSA pool, and ICOSA going into that ICOSA or the Hedron pool. But if you're in that ICOSA pool early, you might get enough Hedron extra if you have a bag, or maybe you're just big enough where you get enough to use in the auctions. So basically, you have a ton of options here. How do you look at this, and what are the things you really need to consider before making a decision? Because one of the things also to add on to this again is your stake length. If you go for a long stake length, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
So how do you utilize this whole scenario to the best of your ability? And what do you need to consider?
I mean, I can go on forever about this stuff, so you guys go ahead. I'm also going to press the render button, so if I disappear, I'll be back.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, we said it at the same time.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, I mean, I personally, I've participated in the liquidation auctions a few times, and I know from hard experience that those bids can get pretty crazy. So yeah, you might want to pre-strategize and consider your stake length so that you at least have one wallet where the stake comes out on day 90, so that you have enough Hedron available to actually bid on those all the HSI stakes coming out if you want them. And and also another thing to consider is I guess some of the bigger players in Hex don't really need to worry about that too much, because from here until the 91-day mark, you're still going to have 3 months worth of Hedron that you can mint also to add to your ammo and in terms of the bidding for the auctions. So
I'll tell you, the first thing that you do is get more than one wallet, because we got screwed in that day. We didn't know any better at Big Payday. We didn't have. Now, granted, HSIs can be transferred, great, but now we're moving to a different ecosystem of the T share B share mindset. Start to position yourself that you're actually spreading your wallets out, and don't screw what we did all back in the day. Because I know all of us from pre-Big Payday were like, why did we do this? Why?
Whoops.
So what was that lesson? Because that was something I personally never learned.
To have multiple different hardware wallets, multiple different backups, multiple different utilities. That way,
more from an OPSEC perspective too.
Yes, very, 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 very much so. Very, very, very much so.
And GIF, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are pretty much nailing it. I think we're going to see some wild action at day 91. I mean, you're going to have two different factors kind of coming together at the same time that's going to really constrain supply, right? You not only have the fact that a lot of Hedron has already been burnt and a lot of Hedron's already been sold and then rebought back up again, but you have that day one mentality of putting it all into that staking pool, right? That's all going to be in there. Now, the second constraint is we're going to see a lot of HSIs in that market. Like I don't see a scenario where we don't see very many. There's going to be a lot in there. It's going to be wild. And one thing, Vince can confirm this too, is it gets really competitive to purchase these HSIs. It will.
Oh yeah.
Like, people, not only do they have emotional attachments to them, because I do, right? Like, if I sell it and it goes to auction, I'm going to be eyeballing that one. I'm like, that one's mine, right? But, a lot of us, we can value these HSIs in terms of Hedron. So we know, like, kind of roughly what that HSI is worth, right? In terms of Hedron. So we're going to bid those up until we're at least to that level, right? Unless nobody else is bidding against us, and then we're taking it. And all that Hedron, the winning bids of all of those are all getting burnt. So what's going to happen on day one when we're burning all this Hedron with all these HSIs, and then day 2 comes around? Then day 3 comes around. Then day 4 comes around. And every day there's more and more HSIs hitting the market, more and more Hedron getting burnt. You still got Hedron staked, a ton of Hedron staked that has minimum stake links, maybe longer than that time period, right? there's got to be a supply shock, and I'm almost more interested to see the price chart of Hedron, because what are these guys going to do? They're going to go and buy more Hedron off the market and then jump back to the auction and make sure they don't lose that bid. Right.
Well, on top of that, it gives the utility to actually buy Hex with Hedron instead of dumping Hedron for Hex or anything like that. So it's the card game is different now because the Hedron itself has its own ecosystem to build Hedron, right? Because now that's the available currency, unless you're, older and all in the industry. But now that Hedron that you acquire now can go buy you those little Hex stakes that are 15 years, and you could drop them off into a Christmas cards or little stockings or all the rest of that, because a little 10K or 10,000 Hex 15-year stake may not be a lot to a lot of people, but in the future it will be. And because that timeline is echoing on top of itself, you can acquire that and use your Hedron for utility to get those little guys, whether you're doing nonprofit or big family or just utility for later, because since it's also wrappable and movable, it can go anywhere that you want, even between hardware wallets.
That's a great point. That's a very great point. Sorry, I'm trying to get this stream out to guys real quick here. We're going to pause the stream. And if you're in here, please, for everyone else, if you're loving the stream so far, go ahead and just smash the likes, obviously. But more importantly, tweet this out, share it on whatever social media platform that you are on most presently, and send it out to everyone so that they can get prepared for the launch of ICOSA, because there's so much to consider here. So much. It's insane. We haven't even touched, I think we've touched like 2 or 3 topics on this list of like 9 or 10 things that we're going to go over here. And one thing I want to mention too is I want to go back and touch on the importance of the ICOSA pool. I know, Vince, you made a great point, and it's going to be hard to want to part ways with your Hex if you're sending an HSI for ICOSA, because you don't really know what the potential of all that is, right? And it's Hex, right? It's Hex. So, but the thing to consider here too is, you could potentially get your Hedron and ICOSA for free, potentially, or close to, if you consider this. If you go into the ICOSA pool and you put in HSI, you get ICOSA, and you're going to get yield in ICOSA and Hedron. If you strategically play the size of that stake right, and you happen to get lucky, if there's enough yield, or if there's a decent amount of yield, you can actually potentially buy back that HSI, and a large majority of what you're going to use to buy that in Hedron, you got out of that yield, which it comes out on day 90. So you didn't pay for most of that. You got it back. You got free ICOSA essentially. And
exactly. Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And so as much as it's a tough value proposition to look at ICOSA and compared to Hedron or Hex, it's really something to consider about going into that pool if you can potentially get your HSI back for free, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and then you could also restart the 90-day process all over again and compound that way. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Gifford.
No, you're good. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. I mean, is there anything else to really when it comes to the ICOSA pool? Well, the one thing I want to add too is why I think it's important to, as much as you can, obviously, or not as much as you can, but there is some importance for me on the ICOSA pool. And it's not just that. It's not just liquidation auctions. You've got Hex that gives you Hedron if you want to mint it, but you can also use the HSIs to get both ICOSA and Hedron, which then if you take your ICOSA and your Hedron after that stake ends, you can then stake the Hedron, restake the ICOSA to earn both double up on the ICOSA, and you're getting Hedron yield, which could then power your buying power for Hex in some way if you want to up your position there, which could then fund, depending on how these arbitrage points that we might get to in a bit are functioning, which could actually leverage you to get more ICOSA and more Hedron over time, which then gets you more Hex. And you could essentially grow your portfolio of these three because they're essentially going to spiral themselves upwards over time in both yield and price performance as well. So, I mean, for me, at least, the ICOSA staking pool is wild, how much it brings to the table. I don't know about you guys, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite staking pool right now, but it's hard to pick favorites. It's
totally
so hard.
They're all so important.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, no, I actually, Watsa is pretty sick too. Like the game mechanics behind that, those NFTs, holding on to those, and what we see built around those possibly down the road. Like you don't know. That's an exclusive club that, only if you're here and involved in the first 14 days, those are the only people who have the opportunity. And then who knows after the 14 days, if people are really looking for those, like who knows if we have another type of auction on Mintra, OpenSea, wherever,
Totally.
where you say, hey guys, you're on Wednesday, I'm posting this up, and it's an auction, and then we're gonna let the market decide what that NFT is worth. That's gonna be wild to find out. It gets some price discovery there.
Yeah, that's such a crazy thought. Like, because it's future projected yield into that price. It's kind of almost like what the HSIs that were sold, the tokenized HSIs that were on OpenSea, what they were selling for. Like some of them, what were they selling for? I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like a few T shares and they were selling for like double or triple what they were. No, it was like way more than what they were.
Those would be minted at the 10x bonus. So those would be at a 22x bonus at which you would be getting them. So that's why they're the most rare, is because people actually threw them up in the beginning during the 10x bonus X. Now, if you want some really nasty game theory,
let's go.
pull up the red scroll strategy.
The ICOSA red scroll strategy. I don't think I have it handy.
Just Twitter up the red scroll strategy. Pull that on screen.
All right, hold on here.
This is where it gets super nasty. That's why, like, and Squirrel, wherever you are, you still haven't figured out where I hid your nut. There's still 3 more connections. And I ain't gonna tell him where it is. Heckling him on this for what, 8 months, 9 months now? He still ain't figured out where I hid the nut.
That's awesome.
But yeah, to Google it up and share the screen.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna share my screen right now. One sec, guys. Share. Let's go share screen. Chrome tab. I think it's this one. Yeah,
it's like 1v3 is where the last one I think you shared. Yeah, that one works.
Can you guys see it? Do we need to zoom in a little more?
Yeah.
Zoom on in.
Okay, hold on.
There you go.
Wow.
All right, so where do you want me to start there, Kool-Aid?
Holy shit.
There's a lot going on here.
Why don't you tell me what you see? Because
all right. I'm seeing a lot of flowing, a lot of. Okay, so we got ETH plus. So this is the bridge in consideration. So we're talking Pulse Chain and ETH flowing back and forth. So we've got Hedron moves into. So okay, so it's saying move the Pulse Hedron over to. There's a pair somewhere on Ethereum. Let's take the stake P hex, mint P Hedron, pair the E Hedron and P Hedron together.
So what do you get LP at that point? Right,
LP. And then your farming incentive to then farm PLS and incentive, assuming you have PLS. And then you're moving that PLS maybe from the fees that you're getting with USDL.
So yeah, because you got to remember it loops down. So hold on, I'm gonna share a different image with you.
Yeah, if you've got a better. Yeah.
No. It's just a heckle squirrel.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna email it to you. But the thing is that this has 3 concurrent loops, and so you think about it again. Take an RPG, a mage, a healer, and a fighter, right? You don't need a DPS or a rogue. You don't need a middle class like a cleric. You just got an old healer. So you can just do the bottom circuit of mint USDL, never sell PLS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Take that to buy Pulse X single side stakes. Take that single side stake to get your Hex. Hex will mint you Hedron. Now add the second roll of having ICOSA on top of that salt shaker that allows more spokes on the wheel to turn congruently. Then add that between 2 bridges, or technically 3 after the merge.
Yeah, I like that.
Wow.
There's a lot to think about. Looking at this, it's cool. I can see the 3 loops and it's nuts. Like, and this applies obviously to Hedron. I wonder how many loops you'd have with ICOSA in the mix.
It's quite simple because you can bridge all those out. So now you're adding. So if I'm looking at this jammer, scooch on into the Hex side. So if we look at ignore the bridge side and just think Hex ICOSA or Hex Hedron, right? Well, now you can use your Hedron to buy HSI stakes, which actually burns your Hedron faster. And then that will allow you to have your price appreciation with ICOSA if you have that versus Hedron, because both are working in tandem on top of each other. That inherently also could give you the liquidity to get some more Pulse X or some liquid loans. And then from there, fatten out that bag. It all goes back to simple weighted game mechanics. You have a fat kid and a skinny kid on 2 ends of a seesaw with trampolines on either side. Skinny kid goes up, moves the fat kid 1/2 inch. Well, fat kid's fat, so he pushes down and launches the skinny kid high up in the air. Well, now skinny kid has velocity. He flies back down, and he can actually push the fat kid higher. And eventually, because you're using multiple seesaws, not just one, 3-dimensional chess, 4-dimensional chess, and how these seesaws work. You're replacing fat kid and skinny kid with fat bag and skinny bag.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. I almost need to see the chart in order to fully like wrap my head around the potential for all this. Is like my brain just can't quite, visualize all of it. I can, but I can't.
A simpler one, and then I'm also going to send you, before you're allowed to show that. Where are you at? So this is one, and then I need to show you something else. Where are you hiding, media? Because I like to screw with squirrel. Files. There you go. So in everyone, this is one you have to show first, and you'll know which one I'm talking about. Paste and go. All right, it's in your email.
Okay, I'll send it here.
So when Squirrel didn't come on stream with me when the kickboxing or the Thai fighting thing was going on, I memed him because no one else could understand his charts. And so I turned him into Pulp Fiction.
That's awesome.
You can show it.
All right, I'm just trying to find. I'm waiting for it to go. There it is. Hold on. This is the V1.2 or the oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Look at it. It's basically Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction as Red Squirrel, and it says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? Do they speak English in what flowchart English, motherfucker? Do you speak it?"
Oh, okay. I'm gonna share it for a quick sec here, and then let me go to the Chrome tab. Where is it? Is this one? That's this one. All right.
But yeah, that's the V2 one right there, and it may be a little bit easier to wrap your head around that one, and that's also in the same email with you. There you go.
All right, let's. So we got. Let's see here.
It just doesn't have the bridging in it.
I gotcha.
Oh my god, my mouse. Hello. All right, Minty Hedron. Go over the bridge, pair them together. My god, just zoom a little bit, please. Oh my. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
Okay. Oh, there we go. That's way easier. All right, sweet. You know what we'll do? I'll bring this up on because I don't want to dissect this too much on stream. I do want to kind of stick to the topic here, not get too far out there.
But think about just how you can see this work, right? Just apply it just to ICOSA, Hedron, burning Hedron, which also gets more rare because the hex side gets more rare because T-shirts always go up and to the right. And as the Hedron burns, Hedron will go up and to the right because it becomes more scarce due to the first factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you want to, if for all of you watching, if you don't fully understand how the mechanics of Hedron are going to work over time, you can almost kind of think about it as a really janky looking Bitcoin supply chart. It's going to go up in the beginning quite a lot. And then over time, it is going to plateau and become very, very rare. I mean, Hedron already is quite rare if you think about how much is actually available in liquidity. And for major players to actually get into their positions back for the ones that have sold, or for major players to get their positions, they have to spend a lot of money now. Mm-hmm. So Hedron now, if these low prices, is a temporary feature at the moment. And that will change quite quickly in the coming years, for sure.
Cryptographics, were you around when Richard did the whole De Beers thing way back in the day?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay. So this is back when it took all of us about 6-8 months to learn really how a T-share worked and the mechanics of all of it. And then Richard just did one tweet that said De Beers. And if you don't really know, diamonds are actually not precious stones. Rubies, sapphires, emeralds, those are precious stones. Now, why are diamonds important? Because basically the De Beers company bought all the mines and closed up their butthole and then took the narrative of diamonds are a woman's best friend. A man is not a man unless you're able to use a diamond. So not only do you choke the supply down, you put the narrative method on why it's important to you to make it something precious. And that's essentially what him holding the stuff to the OA or understanding that the real liquidity of liquid hex is a lot rarer than what it looks like. And because of that, the actual rarity of Hedron is extremely rare. It just needs the time to spin up its engine.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, definitely. There's so much supply, it seems. And most people are like, oh, it's billions or trillions of supply. But man, if you look at liquidity,
yeah,
that's
drying up real fast.
Exactly. Yeah. And with all this burning coming up for ICOSA, I think personally, I think we're going to see a pretty dramatic dump down in supply over the coming maybe 6 months. You know, as HSIs go from the popular thing to get ICOSA, and then there's less of them over time coming in on average, just due to people spiking their popularity because ICOSA just launched. You know, there's going to be a bit of a plateau.
Well, I think that the HSIs that you're going to have through the system of actually sending that, because you're always going to be able to send HSIs to get ICOSA, right? Or is that only for 15 days? Yeah,
no, that goes forever.
All right. So when people are doing this, they're going to probably be doing smaller amounts, so that way they can get maybe more or different type of HSIs. But I'd have to play with the mechanics a little bit. But that's almost like an ability to have a poor man's 5555 that you're going to be getting, because only everyone is going to be putting 5555s in. In fact, why would you stake analog hex at all if you have Staker with, you know, Gnosis Safe, or Hedron, which is basically hex staking 2.0, right? Hex staking with features.
Yep.
But I think that there's always going to be a churn of smaller amount HSIs out there, because people are going to want to not throw in a giant bag, but then hex is going to be rarer to get. So because of that price pump, then that means they're only going to be able to afford the limited amount to get the ICOSA, the single side stake, to then get ICOSA and Hedron, which then gives you yield to then buy hex to then either knock it back into ICOSA or make a traditional HSI stake and keep it.
Yeah, so true. And to think we get all this again, we said this earlier in the stream as well. But guys, you get whatever you participate, however you participate, whatever happens here is doubled when Pulse Chain goes live, and technically even it's tripled exactly with the ETH proof of work fork that's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen there, how much value is going to be over on that chain, but it's going to be a triple, and it might be.
I think great. I mean, so when Access, me, and Wales were on the Nixon stream, where we were talking about how pulling the gold standard and creating fiat, Access came up with a fantastic analogy, and I use it all the time, and I quote him on it. Having hex on two chains is like having two different suns. And when everyone basically yipped about, oh, eHex is going to dump to zero, I'm like, no, there's going to be longer edged stakes. And now with this utility that not only works, it'll also work on merged Ethereum and traditional Ethereum. So let's just say gas, let's say an old ETH 19999 is expensive. Well, maybe you have your Ethereum based hex that you could bridge over, or your liquidity to then unstake it, because that's what I even said way back when, that, oh, it's going to be so expensive to unstake in 15 years. Well, technically you're going to have your Hedron bag to give you the liquidity to actually unstake your thing. So Hedron inherently of itself at the very base level, when people didn't get it, I'm like, dude, that's the gas to undo your stake.
So true. Yeah.
And nobody like it. They're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, it's free gas.
Free coins.
Yep.
Well, but now it has utility on utility on utility. And that's how you make a wheel, is with a bunch of different spokes.
That's so true. I never thought of that about using Hedron as just gas. If you just don't get it and you just want to hold, that's so true. So for anyone watching, if you're just minting a bit of Hedron, hold on to that. If you're not going to stake it, you're not sure what to do with it, hold on to it. That might be your saving grace for paying gas fees in the future if you've got some hex stakes.
Yeah. You should always have 0.1 Ethereum in your wallet. Always bare minimum 0.1 Ethereum in your wallet. And then that will give you enough to mint your Hedron, which will then give you your liquidity to actually do. And if you really want some easy game theory, you can use your P-Hex, take the profit on that side, and then bridge that over to unstake your E-Hex. I just don't even... It's the perk of being the game theory guy, though, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, you have so many ways now with the copies coming over. I mean, you'll have the copy of Hedron as well. So if you really don't want to use your Ethereum Hedron, you could use your Pulse Chain Hedron and bridge that over and use that for your cat. I mean, hold on to your...
But why use that when you can stake it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like... Oh, it's so funny. Hey, here's a question for you guys. In 25 Alpha, thanks for the question. That's actually a good one. What do you guys think? Will we see a crash in Hedron price after ICOSA goes live?
Okay. So at this point, people have figured out, I think, how powerful this shit is. It's like I immediately knew what it was because I talked about wrapping a game in T-shares long before Big Payday, before I built Royd's background and all the rest of that. And this is coming to the fruition of the stuff I was talking about 3 years ago. I'm just not a coder. I'm a architect, different. But you can buy the rumor, sell the news, but you realize that this thing now has an engine behind it. So that's really, really the question is, do you want to dump something that you know that you can get something on the other side? If not, just single side stake your Hedron. But if you want to keep playing the game to get ICOSA, which gives you both ends of the seesaw, then no. And so if a whale plays silly games, then they get silly prizes. So I think at this point, people actually understand the utility. And that's the most important part of the game, is for that knowledge to come out there.
Do you think though, like Gifford and Vince, do you guys think that people understand it enough to maybe not see a bit of a correction?
You know what? Dump it again. I'll finally have some liquid to go buy some shit. But
yeah, personally, I've been spending the last week trying to onboard, or at least get some of my closest friends interested in this, and yeah, I'm encountering a lot of like resistance because yeah, people just I think a lot of the OGs are kind of just already used to staking Hex the way it is, and like I don't want to call them lazy or anything, but they've already kind of been set in their ways, and they just kind of like the aspect of like set and forget. So like when you have a new system finally where you have to kind of engage with it a little more, I think that's where the resistance kind of comes from. But I'll just keep trying and hopefully get people to see the value in all this. So
well, how long ago was Motley's wedding when I was down there and I was basically banging your head against it? I'm like, no, dude, pay attention.
Like April, May,
something like that.
April-ish.
April.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
What's your thoughts, Giff? What do you think about what's going to happen after ICOSA to Hedron?
See, the wild thing is if you look at the total pooled amount of Hedron in there, that just counts for like how much went into the pools, not how much is available to take out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is, I mean, a few percentage points of a total 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is almost completely drained. That's why any sort of decent sized order, you get all this massive slippage because there's just not enough in that pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and by the way, look at Dex Screener for this information. If you're not looking at Dex Screener, that is the best way to handle everything these days. It gives you all the juicy.
Yep. So, I mean, if you're expecting a crash, I mean, you got to understand it's got to roll through that pool. And that is a lot of Hedron to have to roll through that pool to really move the price a substantial amount. And if you don't think people are hoping for that, ready to grab that so they can stake it, they're absolutely going to. I mean, we're not even at all-time
Hex
highs.
for a penny, right? Hex sub penny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Play silly games, get silly prizes.
Exactly.
Start here. So let's look at Hedron right now. So can you look at the liquidity and everything in Dex Screener? I'm so used to like in Uniswap. I want to bring this up.
I added to watch list. So I had multiple different things to the watch list. So if you hit the watch list button and then add it, then you'll see something else on the other side. So add another watch list and add like Hex or something like that, and then press the button and it should show up there. But even like that pop-up right there was all the different pools, I believe. So you can do V2, V3.
Right. What is it? Yeah, what was the one I had there? So
and you can even do split screens.
That's actually pretty nice. It's a little different than TradingView, but I like it.
Well, what's cooler is you can actually see the thinness of the order book. I mean, well, you'd want to go to the trade or Uniswap to actually see the order book, but you can actually see all the transactions.
Yeah,
so, I like that. That's actually really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all that green.
Well, on top of that, the crazy thing is that when I was talking about Hart's Law and how when all the liquidity got pulled, when we were hoping Pulse was going to come out, it just meant that the seesaw snapped faster and you could see the price go up and down in Hex for minimal USD value of token movement versus unit movement. And that's when you can really start to gauge how all this really starts to ratchet up faster and faster, which I thought was pretty fascinating.
Hey, Cryptographics, will you do me a favor? Will you pull up go back to that chart, but this time I want you to pull up the Hex Hedron chart.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure you don't want to pull up the Hedron Pulse Doge chart?
Too soon, bro.
Too soon. Okay, anyways. First, look at the bottom right. Pulled Hedron there. Right? 476 billion.
Bottom right. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's how much was initially put in there. That does not account for extracted hedron, right?
Oh wow!
So
Oh.
Look at
if
the
you now
liquidity.
zoom out on that chart a little bit, zoom out all the way back to the beginning.
Hello. Is this?
Maybe that's not the right version.
Well, it's hexahedron, so it's also a little different.
Is it V3?
Let me see here. Hedron. Let's see.
V3 hexahedron is the one right above you.
Oh, this. Yeah. So I am in V3 then.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'm seeing.
Well, let's pop over to a Uniswap and look at the TVL.
Let's go to
You can just you can click on the right hand side. It says trade in Uniswap, and I'll pop you right over there.
Go to where's trading Uniswap? Where am I?
Down.
Trading
Uniswap.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, like I just love this site just to put me where I need to be, and then from there, charts? No, is it pools?
I think it's pools.
Yeah, it's pools. It's been a hot minute since I've had to do that.
I don't have a hot wallet that I can just throw on here.
No.
Damn.
Because I'm working on work, so I can't really show shit. But let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Can I share my chart real quick?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Let me get the heck out of here real quick. Throw it up here and we can bring it up.
Okay. This is the chart I find incredibly interesting. So this is kind of like, I suppose I inverted it or did something funky to it at the beginning, but this is tracking kind of like the ratio of value between hex and hedron.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see like, this is the launch of hedron, right? February 26th, launch of hedron. And as it goes up, it's basically hex is gaining value on hedron, right? So here's that initial pump. There's kind of a double pump in the hedron value, right? And then it just got bled out. Here's that sell wall. And then it kind of finds this equilibrium for a minute, and now it's breaking out in the opposite direction. So if you're thinking there's going to be a hedron dump, this has to exceed this ratio right here, this wall right here, which is that ceiling's not going anywhere.
No. Actually, it's in the private chat, and it'll confirm what Gifford's saying.
Let's see here. Yeah, Gifford, do you want to just talk? If you want to go to that, or I can do it. That's fine too. I'll just do that real quick. Let's go share screen, and I think is it this one? Must be this one. And liquidity.
Look at that big wall, because it reads backwards, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So for all the viewers who are watching that don't know what the heck they're looking at here, Gifford, you want to explain real quick?
So this is kind of like what's called the liquidity wall, that where you set certain ranges that your tokens will trade on within Uniswap V3, and a lot of people refer to this as the hex hedron sell wall that DOA of hex kind of put up for whatever reason, right? We don't know, but a lot of the controversy was that's going to prevent hedron from ever running again. Right, it'll hit that wall and it will bounce right back down. There's another chart that somebody in the Telegram chat has that shows us eating through that sell wall. And keep in mind, the sell wall could be moved, right? It can be moved at any time by whoever owns those liquidity pairs. So right now, what you're seeing is this is like 60% has eaten through it, even counting in the fact that it's moved a little bit, right? So once that gets eaten through the pump, right, it becomes support on the way back down. Okay, so imagining a crash where it just like a buy the news, sell the rumor event is going to be incredibly difficult. Something really wild black swan event would have to happen for such a thing to take place.
Well, furthermore, the fact that it's pumped so much and that wall is still so thick underneath it, and that's if you actually like do a split screen in between, like, because I have like all of our stuff on multiple different stuff, and you can just kind of see how much volume is bouncing around, and it's just like, geez, it's pretty wild.
I gotta
Yeah,
ask you a question here, or go ahead, Vince. If you have a thought, go ahead first.
I was saying earlier that wasn't actually the OA wall. It was this one on the hex pair.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the other one was the USDC pair, but yeah.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure this one actually moved because yesterday we were on the edge of the wall, and now we're back to the middle back of this wall.
Not much left.
I think we're moving further.
Are we?
I think. Oh yeah, because if you hit where's the button? There's it depends on which way you have the chart. Sometimes it reverses the
Oh, I
wall.
see. I'll go hexahedron. I see. I see.
Yeah. So we are actually still moving through it.
Through it. Yep.
Here, yeah.
Let's see here. Let's make sure I got this one right. It's probably way
I
down.
think you have the right one.
I think it should be lower though. Hexahedron. Yeah, this is one here.
Well, remember now that we have the Kevin Levine, or however you pronounce his last names, the new utility to create your own pools. So that way you earn yield. And don't also forget it. It always blows my mind that people don't think like this. Impermanent loss is a way for a whale to cash out without pressing the red candle button. The slippage is against them for a stable or something else. So there's an important mechanic to either making your own pools where you're getting fees while doing that kind of stuff, or allowing the impermanent loss to allow the asset to keep rising. And then, you don't worry about actually harming the price. So it's almost like a rolling limit order. Yeah,
it's actually V3 is crazy. It took me a little bit to understand it, but man, the amount you can do with it, and like the idea of concentrated liquidity, and what that does for the
liquidity too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's so much going on with that. But yeah, so sorry, the original question I think was, do we think that the Hedron's gonna crash? Probably not. And I think that's the consensus here. I think everyone's kind of on the same page there. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I mean, the thing is like, what's a crash? You trying to buy sub penny hex? You're never going to do it. Once God will knock that price up, it never went under 0.0005 or whatever it was again. And so like this adds that same kind of mechanic that puts people's brain in this headspace that there's now utility interest, and it's no longer just a useless dumpable token. Because remember, Dogecoin you used to fucking get by pressing a little button when you were mining Litecoin.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Hedron's very, very, very different.
No, 100%. But it's just like it was a joke dumpable thing back in the day.
Yeah,
and so like that's what people considered it, because they weren't future thinking about their utility and what was there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Let's see here, guys. I want to move on to real quickly another one of our game theory topics that we had. Let's talk about real quick. Let's see here. Let's talk about maybe why you won't want to, what your guys' thoughts are on staking everything, holding a tiny bit liquid, a lot liquid. Gif, what are your thoughts on when it comes to staking, holding some liquid, staking all, maybe doing like a different wallet strategy that you had, like the Waterfall? I'd love for you to explain that as well, and why maybe that might be a great strategy.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, just to kind of talk about the Waterfall strategy, I want to call it more of a method than anything, because it's always evolving, like how I'm envisioning it. So now it's just a method. Okay. So the method is more than one wallet for staking. Okay. That's basically all it is. And that those stakings are those two, at least minimum two stakes, are going to have two different minimum staking periods. And that's it. And it's still called a waterfall because at some point it's going to be advantageous to take yield from one and add to the other, or take new dry powder in, add one to the other. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be a mechanism where you're going to come from a smaller pool of a 30-day stake, and it's going to go to a larger pool. Now, whichever pool that is, who knows? If you have 5 wallets, maybe you got 2, anywhere in between. It don't matter, right? But the important part is when you're talking about trying to keep some liquid in your wallet, right? I think it's fascinating that you can actually have liquid in your wallet by staking just enough to the point where you only have a 30-day lockup period. Because we know we're not going to see any HSIs hitting the market until the 90-day mark. So we got plenty of time. So anything that you're looking about keeping liquid, like specifically Hedron, if you put it in the staking pool and just make sure your minimum lockup period isn't longer than 30 days, that's as good as liquid. And you're earning yield the whole time. So it can sit there for the 30 days. You can leave it there, and it's still there till 60 days, and it's still there till 90 days. and you got a bunch of ICOSA for it, which you can do whatever you want, stake it, trade it, whatever.
Mhm.
And then now you've got your Hedron back just in time for the auctions.
That sure sounds like a fat kid, skinny kid to me.
Sure does, doesn't it?
Who would have thought?
And something important to mention here too, that I think is a great segue, is we talked about, I think it was last night on Sloth Stream that I want to bring up, because this is a really, really interesting thought. The difference between the ICOSA pool and the Hedron pool is that ICOSA gets burned when it goes into the pool. And so the supply, as far as circulating supply, will contract and grow as people mint ICOSA with their HSIs. So there's actually opportunity where, as the supply, if you're, let's say, a whale at the moment and the supply expands in ICOSA, you may want to reset your stake because that supply has expanded to knock yourself down on the minimum stake length. But then when your stake ends, as that ICOSA goes back in the pool, you will end your stake and you'll actually get the bonus that you should have got originally, or close to it. Like you can get like a 10, 15, or 20% bonus with this whole procedure doing this.
Well, it's true, but as you lock up longer, you get more bonus. So that's why,
True.
like, if you have a heavier bag, the question is like, how do you? And that's what I said earlier. Use different wallets. Don't
Right.
make the same mistake, and then have your wallet wait as you would if you're. Let's say when you go to the bank, right? Let's say you're going to pull out $1,000. Do you want to pull out 1,000 ones and look like a stripper, or do you want to pull out 10 $100 bills, right? And so, like, you need to look at like how you're handling what you're walking around with, what you're handling on how, like Clifford was saying, a waterfall strategy or a Kanban strategy if you're into, like, you know, the development side of a game. Fat kid, skinny kid, I just like think it's more funny and it's easier to visualize. But it's right, because you want to actually not be locked up into something. You want to have the utility that you know where your rolling stakes would be. Let's just say we're just talking hex, right? Pulse chain, you can stake rolling hex every month and whatever, not a big deal. But because you had the fork, when your stakes come out on the east side, you're going to toss it out longer or wrap it into an HSI, right? Because that just makes logical sense on the utility on how you're managing that waterfall bag.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, just real quick, to describe in a little bit of detail like how those are set, right? Like there's two basically reads that happen, two contract interactions that happen when you stake. The first contract interaction happens when you initially stake or when you add to a stake. Okay, and what it's computating is what's your share of the total supply, and what staker class are you, and so what is the minimum stake length, right? So anytime you stake or you add, that's the calculation it does. And then there's a second calculation, and that's when you end your stake or claim your rewards, right? That second calculation only looks at what is your staker class now and how much of that, what bonus are you allotted, right?
Does it actually change during your stake? So if you actually go over a threshold while you're staked, then it automatically, if it changes your bonus, then it would change your lockup period. That would how the mechanics would have to work.
So because when you claim, you're not changing your lockup period, you're just setting the bonus, right? There will be scenarios where you staked as a shark and you get paid as a whale on those same on the 270 days. And that would happen if your share of the pool went up based on market conditions of supply, right?
That's very correct. Yep.
So then at that point you could claim that at that 270. If we're in that point in time, you can claim that with that 20% bonus, even though you didn't serve whale time, you served shark time.
That's crazy.
Pretty
And
cool
the
stuff.
and the 10 or 15 or 20%, let's say that you got as a bonus at the end from doing this, that's calculated based on the total amount of yield that you have accumulated through that period of time, not just 20% bonus on what you staked, right?
Well, it's the share of the pool.
Right.
That's the most. It's like okay, so if you're looking at the Hedron staking pool, the Hedron does not get burnt when you stake it. It just goes to a contract, right?
Right.
So that means that supply does not like jump up and down. It may go down if there's a lot of burning happening in somewhere else, like say burning
the liquidation auctions or whatever.
Exactly, or benevolence function, whatever the case may be. So that will change there as opposed to ICOSA. So that's why it's going to look a little strange, because on ICOSA it burns the tokens, right? So that shrinks the supply. So hopefully that makes sense.
Wow.
Sorry, definitely got distracted by the sexy time people in the chat there. But they're on full force tonight, man. This is like the third or fourth time I'm.
We're doing something right.
We got
Good,
we got chat
That's
box
a
in
good
there.
sign, I guess.
Yeah, we're definitely doing something right. I want to know, guys. Vince, I want to start with you. What's the part of, because we have so many pieces of this, and I want to know though, what part of the game theory that you've come across is still the thing that you're wrestling with the most, that also is the most intriguing to you personally, that maybe we either doesn't, even if we haven't talked about, it doesn't matter, but I want to know so we can, something that you're playing with so we can expand on a little bit here.
I think it's actually the last topic we discussed, because the nature of the leagues is so dynamic that it's, there's just so many factors that I still haven't wrapped my head around how to kind of strategize with that in real time, because it's relatively simple in Hex, where the amount of T-shares you have and your staker class is determined based on just the staking class and not the entire supply. So it just adds another layer of complication that I'm still trying to work my head around. But
Can I jump in and show the opposite side of what could happen?
Yes,
with those dynamics. So the opposite way, like a kind of a different like seesaw effect on the other end is that
it's good analogy.
Say you're going into the ICOSA pool day one, and because there's not a lot of ICOSA, it dictates that you're a whale, and your minimum stake length, that's when that's set. So 365 days, right? And then say a bunch of ICOSA is minted, and say that's used for like liquidity for trading or whatever the case may be. Somebody's holding, a bunch of people are holding, right? Then your bonus will shrink because your staker class changed. And say it's drastic, and that 20% bonus now says 0 in there. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? I have 365-day lockup, 0 bonus. That don't seem fair, right? If you go in and add just one token, when you add to a stake, it resets the lockup period, right? So that lockup period will then adjust to 30 days.
Yeah. It's a very good reason to keep some liquid on hand just in case.
I mean, you always should, no matter what, just like everything else, especially when you know that you have this utility for situations like that. It's like topping off fuel into your tank of your car, right? And because that you can actually top off your stake to trigger particular situations that you'd want, whether that's coming out of a stake or resetting it, like Gifford was saying, which is, it's very important to understand those type of mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. Kool-Aid, what's the strategy you're kind of, or the not strategy, but the part of the game theory that you are still like wrestling with, and you're
I've been talking about this for over a year, so I'm very, 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 very a-okay on this. So what you have to think about is like, if you really understand what's being built right now, then you'll understand the difference between fax machine and high-speed internet. Let me ask you this. Let's play a little game. What is the first commodity that changed human revolution? The most important first commodity.
The first one, holy man. I mean,
I'll give you a hint. See, people say fire. You can't travel with fire.
Domesticated animals.
Beasts of burden. Now,
there we go. Yeah.
If you look at beasts of burden, right? Horses, you use them for tithe, for trading, for tilling, for chasing meat. You can actually even eat them if you want, whether it be a camel, a llama, an ass, or whatever. Beasts of burden were the most intrinsic important part, because some people will say a wheel. What are you carrying the wheel behind yourself like Fred Flintstone? No, you need 4 wheels to be a wheel, otherwise it's a sled. And beasts of burdens were the utility of that wheel. Now, where are horses in our current society? By the way, give her tip of the hat. You're the first person to actually catch that fast. So
I've honestly heard that somewhere recently. I don't know where.
Okay.
It could have been from you, honestly.
Sometimes people listen to me. All right. So where are our beasts of burden now? They're in our horse-powered machines. So horses still exist. They're just they're a luxury now. You got to go give it some hay, maybe ride it Gundam style. But like at the end of the day, the horses are still there. The utility of the horse has evolved. And the utility of wrapped, binded assets that actually can do all sorts of interesting things when they play together that is the absolute future of what's being bounded here, especially with bonded liquidity, seesaws in between bridges, in between assets, like you were saying before, a waterfall system where a small bag can top off your bigger bag. And then from there, you can bring it into a different system to build a different seesaw or a different waterfall to come down. And that's how you have horses in a machine that has 10,000 of them. So that's really the sexy of the future. It's not really complex. It's looking foresight into what is actually being utilized based on yield.
Right. So you're looking more at like future than current, right? You're kind of seeing where things are going and having the big foresight. That's the big thing for you.
Yep.
Amazing. What about you, Giff? What's the thing that what's the part of the game? Because before I came in here, or we all came in here, you were discussing with Nomad some interesting points on like the arbitrage, and that was deep. Like that, I don't know if I was following to some degree. I get a little lost, but I don't know if that's what you're wrestling with still or not, or that was just a random one-off thing. But that was interesting.
Yeah. So there's some kind of advanced kind of tokenomics that could happen within the whole arbitration fair value pricing that can happen, right? This metaphorical ceiling that could be drastically, I now see as something that could drastically change. It could drastically go up and down. It's not something that's just going to be consistently going up like I thought before, because the one factor I didn't. So the reason why I thought it would consistently go up is because as the T-share rate goes up, it's harder to mint ICOSA, right? And so that ratio right there is going to just slowly make that ceiling go up, right? Just right with the ratcheting of the T-share. What I didn't take account for is what happens if the price of Hex runs away from the price of ICOSA, right? What happens to that price ceiling? Because when you go to swap if you're doing the arbitrage and you go to swap your ICOSA, which is a set amount, for Hex, which is now run away in price, you're getting much less Hex. So what does that do? That raises that price ceiling, right? But that price ceiling, all that's telling you is you need to be above that price ceiling to make the arbitrage work. So when it raises the price ceiling, it makes arbitrage harder to do, right?
Right.
So then it just makes sense to just go on market and purchase it and let Uniswap market dictate how the price goes up, right? So that's just an added layer that, it kind of stumped us. We got a really good question in voice chat, and that was the question. So shout out voice chat and Telegram. And it really got the gears rolling. And Nomad and I, we go back and forth a lot. Like that's how the iron sharpens iron, that's just our relationship.
Sure, I can show you how you can see that in real time, Gifford. If you want to bring up the Maxi chart, the Maxi premium, and that's what I was talking about way back when, because theoretically, Maxi people, just like we were talking about the NFT people that can go for the one time in pool, those are your diamond-handed people. And since it was such a limited people that went in, that is the supply. And so when you look at the premium, like when you go to Dex Screener and you click the view it in Hex terms, you can actually see the premium, which is like 1.89 right now. And what's been fascinating to watch is how when Hex pumps a little bit, the Maxi premium may go down a little bit, but then it gets right back up because you can see both in the thickness of the order book. That's why I really enjoy Dex Screener, is because I'd watch the prices and then I'd watch the premium. And then from there, I'm like, oh, well, this is really interesting. When Hex does rise, Maxi does, the premium goes down. Now, what you were talking about there between the ARB opportunity, one Maxi is still one Maxi. The premium is the difference when we have the fork between Pulse Chain, because Maxi inherently of itself is a 15-year stake. Just kind of like this NFT could be an infinite-year stake. It could be whatever it wants to be. But the actual, that's right, the caboose. But if you look at that ARB opportunity, you interestingly could see how if, let's say, Maxi on one side of Pulse, like the premium lowers because Hex goes higher and everything's raising, Maxi ARB'd over to the other side could actually rip the price up on the EHEX side. It's another game of multiple seesaws working on top of each other. And through bonded liquidity, one like for like is also the same thing as one NFT on the single-sided staking pool. So when you take that one bonded NFT, and there's only so many, if on the Hex side, let's say a whole bunch of people end up selling their stuff, but on the Pulse side, people keep it. Well, that one NFT on the Hex side could be generating a lot more fucking yield and be a lot more valuable, even though the price may differ. But at the end of the day, it's a percentage of the pool in that particular situation with this one. Whereas with Maxi, one Maxi is technically one Maxi. It's the premium when it breaks back out into Hex. I mean, you can sell it for USDC if you want, but that's not really the game.
Yeah.
Because the Maxi earned you Hex and Hedron. That was the interesting part of it. And they're actually trying to play the same thing with Base and Team, which again, another seesaw, that also will work within the same intrinsic system on how basically everything is built on the T-Share engine. Multiple cabooses, multiple things running at the same time. It's almost like I want to say Hedron, but that is what it is, right? A dragon? The multi-headed dragon is a Hedron?
Hydra.
Hydra.
There we go.
Close.
Close enough.
That's very
Hail
cool.
Hedron.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on top of that, the interesting part is if that Hex value does like skyrocket compared to ICOSA, now what you have to realize is that all those HSIs that are about to go to market are now worth more. But how are they worth more? They're worth more in terms of Hedron,
Right.
which will kickstart much more burning of Hedron in order to get those set HSIs because they're worth a lot more now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That is exactly correct, sir.
So it's almost like when Hex runs away, it's almost a net positive for Hedron in a way.
In a
Temporarily.
circular system, it's hard to find a wrench in the gear, and every time you think you found one, you have to step back and look at the bigger picture. Otherwise, you're going to get lost.
Or just look at the red squirrel strategy and just stick your head deep in there, and then that squirrel, you haven't found the nut; it's still in there.
That's crazy. That was one of the parts I missed of that conversation. Was when Hex runs, even Hex running away from Hedron or ICOSA in that sense can still be a little bit of a net positive. Well, maybe specifically for Hedron. Can it be a net positive for ICOSA too if it runs away?
Well, it has to, because the Hex price going up would mean the T-share price going up, which means you can't have enough T-shares to actually mint your Hedron, which means that removes the circulating supply from that loop and ecosystem. And because that is now being a burn mechanism when you start to play with the contract, and now the contract's alive, right? When I talked about Hex way back when, a T-share or the T-share engine is technically a Pandora's box. So the Pandora's box is already off. It had time to mature. It is now grown. It is now an adult or a teenager or whatever you want to call it. Hedron just has learned to walk, and then it is now starting to run. And that Pandora's box is off. And so from there, it just depends how quickly does it want to learn 6 languages or learn algebra or all the rest of that. That system will dramatically seesaw faster now. The velocity has already been kicked in. It only takes one snowflake to start an avalanche. Everything else just piles on. It just one tink to actually start the avalanche, to everything to cascade.
And if we could add just one more avalanche in there, right? If we see I'm just gonna keep going, guys. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been doing this forever. I now have people to talk about with this.
That's why Kool-Aid and I get along so good, is we just go back. Okay, so here's the other factor. All right, say we see the hexes shooting up compared to ICOSA, and we're like, what do we do? Why do we want ICOSA right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those hex stakes are worth more. They're going for more Hedron. We're seeing a supply shock in Hedron. How do you get Hedron? Well, if you don't have like whale hex stakes to mint them from, right? And you can't get enough liquidity on the market to buy them, then what's the staking pool that earns you Hedron? ICOSA.
Yeah,
Correct.
cool. Yeah.
Yep, because otherwise you have to stake the Hedron first to get the ICOSA, to then time that into it, so then it comes back around. And it's like taking a business route to somewhere else. ICOSA is like taking an HOV lane. It's a direct.
I like that.
Good old Nick. He learned real quick too.
Yeah, it's crazy how even places in the theory or the game theory that you think would be bad, it's still a net positive long term. It's just mind-boggling to me.
It's all based on T-share, right? Logistically speaking.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Chat, real quick. I know I haven't really been engaging with you guys too much. What I'd like to do, because we're about an hour, getting close to the hour and a half mark now, if you've been watching and I haven't answered your question, because I think I have a few here, we can start with these for a little bit. I'd like to engage with you guys. If you have any questions, fire them now into the chat. If they weren't already answered in the stream, I will get to them and we'll start answering your questions. So I'll bring up one here. Well, let's look through and just see what we have. Let's see. Let's try this one. Did we answer this one yet?
What you got?
In your opinion, which token punishes you less to sacrifice for what's an NFT from an opportunity cost standpoint?
That's exactly what I asked at the very beginning.
Right.
It depends on if the calculation is immediately calculated into the USD value of the asset while it sits in between your points. So if you are sacrificing and you immediately get your ICOSA, which I guess Gifford, you were saying that is like Alex wrote this code that it immediately triggers, makes an oracle, and actually gives you that immediately. Then none. There is.
Oh wait, no, that's for the HSI buyback. This question is asking about the Watsa NFT.
No, that's Watsa.
That's Watsa, yeah.
Well, it would also be everything. To be honest, it would have to be. It would have to be everything at that exact same time. So if you are using your HSI stake to get your ICOSA, it would take that immediate value and give you the ICOSA because now it's taking your stuff for liquidation. Remember, the ICOSA contract is like a taker and a maker into one, and it doesn't give a shit. It's just like, gimme. It automatically buys it from you. And again, I've been busy. I haven't had a chance to look, but at market value of whatever it is. And then it gives you market value of whatever the ICOSA is, availability, because you're technically taking that to the auction house and saying, screw you, you can have the bitch. But that goes into, I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously the people are saying 90 days, but it may even move quicker. Maybe it goes into a holding period, if you will. You know, it has to be secluded for a while, but you're your good little stake. But if that's the case, the same thing with the I cannot say that because I always think of what's up and connect. I just can't say it. But if it's immediately calculation at market spot, then whatever you have available. The real question is, what do you want to get rid of?
That's tough because the question's kind of the way I'm reading it's like opportunity cost standpoint. Maybe they're viewing it from like okay, if you hold one of them, if you have both and you sacrifice one of them, which one of them is going to go up the fastest afterwards if you don't sell it necessarily? And I think that that's almost an unanswerable question in a way.
I think simply based on the fact that you're going in the Watts NFT pool, I don't think it really matters that much.
Yeah.
Whatever the allotment amount that you're looking to put in that pool, based on lettuce or diamond hands, is going to dictate if it was a good trade or not, right?
What's interesting is it's making another war chest, just like what Richard did. Remember, the reason why Richard made sacrifices, besides getting around SEC nonsense, is so he could move his power of liquidity into something else that he controlled. More oil is being taken off the map. How about that? And no oil will be available to let other people never enter the industrial age. Yeah. So whoever the SA would be, maybe getting a war chest that would also do the same parameters, which again is looking at the proper way to do things right, just like the benevolent burn that it can happen. Why would you completely burn your baby that you have a shit ton with? But you also have a war chest over here to protect the price if there's confuffery about.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could just convert to USDC and sacrifice that for the NFT and not have to worry about.
I think that's great too. Like honestly, USDC is an excellent choice as well. And I think it was mentioned about the GUI. Like when you're sacrificing USDC, there's an advantage there. So I mean, I think it's all good.
And I think it's and especially if you guys are using cow swap, I mean, you're doing gasless swapping, and it's money. It's like no matter how large your transaction is, like you can get $6 everything, like fees for the swapping and everything. Highly recommend it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to in the background here. I'm going to go and Vince, you started using it, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, I started using it off for recommendation from one of your videos. So yeah, I really enjoyed it ever since, and I haven't been using Uniswap. It's just been saving money.
Chris is my first general. He also helps Hexmac run the Facebook group and that page. And then Wild SJ is my second general. So, but he's been preaching cow swap forever. I have not had a chance to play with anything in a while.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's
yeah,
awesome.
it's
I
really
was
awesome.
planning on
Have
making
anyone
videos
played
soon.
with the Stringly, Changely, whatever the new credit card mixing thing is?
Nope.
No.
I haven't even heard of it.
Richard tweeted about it. It's our credit card fiat armor.
buy.hex.com.
Yeah,
what
but
it
it actually
The,
goes through it actually goes through a provider that starts with an S or a C or something.
Simplex. Simplex.
Simplex.
Simplex.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I haven't used it, but I've definitely seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't used it either.
Let's go with this one here. Unreal Minigolf says, and I think we've kind of touched on this, but it wouldn't be bad. Wouldn't be bad because we got a bunch more people in here than in the beginning. I think we talked about this in the very beginning of the stream, so it wouldn't be bad to go over one last time. But it says, I have a large bag of Hedron. Would you buy ICOSA and stake or stake Hedron? What's your advantage? What's your take, advantage, or disadvantage? I'll start and I'll say, like, look, if you're staking Hedron, more people have Hedron. There's going to be a lot more people in the pool in the beginning. If you stake ICOSA, you're potentially getting into a pool where there is more of a wall for people to want to get in because they're going to have to give up their hex in order to do it. So what you could do, like the advantage to being in both of them is you get more ICOSA, but the advantage to being in the ICOSA pool is you're getting in a smaller pool and you're earning both ICOSA and Hedron. But what's the advantages and disadvantages you see, guys, of both? Is there like,
I mean, it sounds wild, but what I would recommend, not recommend. I'm new at street, guys. Okay, I'm new at this stuff, so take it easy on me.
Not
here's a
financial
wild thing.
advice.
Yeah, not financial.
Here's not my advice.
Yes, here's not my advice. Here's one strategy you could take, possibly, right? Is depending on the arbitration price of ICOSA once it launches, you have to look at what the token price is. If it's super high, then you would probably want to take that Hedron and you'd want to swap it for Hex. You'd want to make an HSI stake, and then you would want to sell it to the contract and get that ICOSA. So you're going to get a great deal by doing that, right? Because the ICOSA price is so high. Now, the flip side is if it's down beneath it, then that means that there's probably liquidity there. So you can just take your Hedron and swap it directly for ICOSA and stake that. Like, those are just two options that you could go down. Those are roads you could go.
I think you can't go wrong doing 50-50 because that way, especially since day one is almost here, you've got that first mover advantage of getting the ICOSA right away if you at least get some HSIs and sell it to the contract. So yeah, you really can't go wrong going in both pools.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if any proof of benevolence functions are going to happen, which is going to trigger both the ICOSA and the Hedron to both pools. I mean, there's so many. We don't know what's going to happen with the price of Hedron. We don't know what's going to happen with the auctions. We don't know what's going to like. There's so many variables that can't be accounted for right now that I don't think there's a bad decision. There's just maybe more optimal than another decisions once we get to a certain point in time in hindsight. Because we could project one thing and maybe another pool does surprisingly well. Maybe there's a lot less people for whatever reason in the WhatsApp pool, and all of a sudden everyone that was throwing in maybe $100, between $100 or $1,000 was thinking, I'm going to be a shrimp. They're a tier up. They got a whole zero moved out of that equation, and they're making a whole lot more yield. There's all these possibilities that can make it so that if you just commit to a decision or you make a decision where you're not, if you're unsure a little bit, maybe you don't set yourself completely in stone. You don't, if you're like, okay, maybe I should go 50-50, you don't stake all of your Hedron and all of your ICOSA all into one if you have a lot, because that way you lock yourself up. Maybe give yourself options where like you either leave a little bit of liquid on the side or you do a 30 and a 90 or a 30 and a 180 or whatever you want to do. So that way you have some more movement for those liquid assets so you can take advantage of opportunities. You don't put all your eggs in one basket necessarily, unless you just want to do that, because you can also do that too, and it might work out really well. Who knows?
Don't degen.
Yeah. Don't degen. Exactly.
Don't degen.
Let's see here.
Ape in day one. Do it.
Ape in day one.
Here's the funny thing. Like, my life's a crazy shit show. And whenever I actually have money, I put things in, whether it's top, whether it's bottom. It just is what it is, because I actually have the opportunity to turn a key over and do it. Instead of actually something comes up, I fucking go buy something, whatever it is. I didn't get that opportunity to do something. And the only thing that you ever regret in life is doing nothing. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you made a choice. You learn from a choice. Every problem has a reward in its completion. What you do with those rewards is up to you, Richard Bach.
That's so true. Yeah. I mean, yeah. The only thing you regret doing is nothing.
Could you
That's
throw
so
up a Doug Griffith's comment down there? It's
Oh.
more of a recent one, just real quick.
Wait,
Something to think about.
Well, this is, yeah. I mean,
that's a
the
great
thing.
point.
You know, because like you guys were saying originally, like the price of your entry into that pool is locked in initially.
Time weighted within the hour.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And so what you would do is, let's just say you're making a ladder. You just ladder yourself in as you ladder yourself in, right? You said I am choosing to put in 20,000 units of something. All right, I'm going to put in 500 today, 500 tomorrow, 500 the next day, and dollar cost averaging by price movement is kind of like if you bought X at the top, then you bought it at the bottom, your average is 10 cents, not 50. So like you just look at the ability to actually do something, and then you were successful in completing a task.
Yeah, I mean, the dollar cost average strategy in those 14 days in the Watsa pool is so money. I so agree with you. That's where it's at for sure. Just don't forget to get involved. Like the only pool that is limited is that one.
Busy.
And that's the only proof you get that you were here early. That's it.
Yep.
And otherwise, you have to do like stolen valor and buy it from somebody else and be like, "Hey, look, I was there early," right? You know. So, I mean, just be aware.
We got the chain analysis. We can know. We can find out.
Exactly.
I happen to have a quick access to silver if I need to get them.
There you go.
There we go. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a very good. I hadn't actually thought of that, and that wasn't actually one of the things that I mentioned in my video. Which, I want to stress, DCA is a great strategy for the 14 days.
But
especially because
that put aside the monies, right? Like I'm doing this. Here it is. Think. And then
set alarms, take pictures, do whatever you got to do, man. Do whatever you got to do.
Back in the Ponzi days, back Regal Coin, BitConnect, like all the rest of that fun shit.
Oh, I basically ignored all of that, and I was just a BTC maxi back then. Or I'm sorry, Litecoin. I turned into a Litecoin maxi for some strange reason.
You're going to be Litecoin Gifford now. Or
Litecoin.
No. Yeah, Litecoin wear. That's what you're.
Oh man, love that.
And in fact, I think you should make a shirt that says Litecoin wear. In fact, I think you know someone that could Photoshop that for you.
I was on stream with Miguel the other night, so that was a coincidence.
Miguel's a good smart one too.
Yep. Well, he's the guy that actually got me into Hex. He's the guy who said the word Hex the first time I'd ever heard it and planted that seed in my mind. Yeah, I heard him on a Fresh and Fit way back, and I never forgot it, but didn't look into it. Actually, no, I did look in that April when he mentioned it to me. It was 2021. It would have been. Hex was at a penny, and I looked at it and was like, that's way higher than Dogecoin or Shiba or whatever I was looking at the time. And I'm like, or no, Shiba. I was like, that's way too many zeros. I want something that's probably going to go up higher. And I didn't buy it. And then in August, I bought it and I bought the top. So
the problem with that is that like the De Beers diamond game is at play if you actually don't understand how much real liquid Hex is actually out there, especially after all the sacrifices, especially after all the long-term staking. I mean, you can go to Hex.vision, take a real look into the real. That's the whole difference. It's why it's all about the t-shirt. We have all the under the hood that you could ever look. Like when Hex Daily Stats came out, you can actually sit and itemize it all, export it out as a CVV, I believe. And I did the game theory. I don't even need to look under the hood. I can just like look at the mechanics. But I mean, that's my day job.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy that we have all those just like on multiple. How many websites do we have? We have like 5-10 websites now that have like, or there's like Hex Vision, Hex Daily Stats. There's.
You know, I own conmarketcrap.com and I still have yet to, I was going to give it to the How to Pulse people. And they're like, I don't understand why I need this stuff. And I'm just like, well, you could have a comparison site.
Oh my God.
But funny. I also got Hex OnlyFans.
Oh,
wow.
All righty. Holy moly.
I
probably won't.
I don't even know. No, hold on. Oh, fuck. Now I got to fucking beat someone to this game.
Let me see. I saw a comment here. Are you going to live stream the launch? So we've actually been talking in some of the Telegram groups, and we're trying to figure out a strategy of, and Bullish. I think if you have any input, Bullish is helping us organize it. We're going to be doing between. There's like I don't even know. There's a bunch of us that are trying to organize and figure out how to cross stream, what channels we're going to go on. I don't know if it's going to be this one. It might not be. It might be. Who knows? But we're going to have multiple streams going, hosted on one channel where the chat's going to be. And we're going to have other channels hosting the stream as well, just to get the content out and to get more eyes on it. So that way people can see what's going on and at least, visually watch or listen on the go if they want. But there will be a live stream going on launch. I don't know if it's going to be 24 hours. I'm going to tap out long before 24 hours. I'll tell you that right now. But it'll probably be a healthy stream for sure. So that will happen, and do expect that. Let's see here. Where do you sack? So again, I'm gonna put it in chat. So if anyone's still confused for some reason as to, or maybe just you didn't get the memo yet, it's app.icosa.pro to go check out the testnet. I'm gonna put that in the chat right now.
Oh, let me just clarify. We kind of use sack as a euphemism, but it's not really a sack because you don't actually have to wait for the NFT. It's really just an exchange through the front end. Like you pay your whatever you want to pay, and then you get the NFT immediately. So it's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah,
it's just you and the code. That's it.
Yep. No middlemen.
Right.
No nothing.
And if there's one update I could throw out too, is the Shark staker class is no longer 240 days, it's 270. And it makes better sense.
Based off multiples of 90 days, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
240 was that was confusing a little bit. Yeah, that makes way more sense now. Cool.
You had a reason for it, but it's just better this way.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, you know what, guys, I'm thinking we're coming up on the hour and 45-minute mark here. Where was the question I had in the background? Where is it? Private. There's star. There would be space 007 D007 was asking.
Peter on OnlyFans. I got it. Boom.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Space D007 was asking your guys' specific strategies that you haven't yet mentioned. If you're okay with sharing them, what do you have that we haven't talked about on stream that you're thinking about doing, or you're maybe playing with for a strategy for yourself?
I can't say shit. The squirrel's nuts still have to be found. But I would highly, highly, highly advise really paying attention to what Gifford was saying before, and what I been saying about the seesaw and the weighted mechanisms of what a T-share, which isn't immutable, it's uncorruptible yield. And that uncorruptible yield, properly weighted and based, has more opportunity if you really, really, really think about the future of where things are instead of a fax machine. Because technically an email, the attachment of an email, that was the first NFT. The first cryptocurrency wasn't Bitcoin. It was EverQuest gold mining. You have to look into the future on how things work. And as these other ecosystems bind and build on top of that, as Gifford was saying, your little bag and big bag can work in tandem with each other to not just generate yield, but generate exposure into different assets and utilities that work within the same ecosystem of mind. So it's not just inherently, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy on day one. Oh, sure, go buy on day one. That's fine. But also make sure that you just give yourself exposure to do stuff, which means homework, which means research. And that's probably the most important thing is don't be a no homework hexagon. We teach why, not what to buy. So when people just want to have the cliff notes, you're just going to get to the top of the cliff and you didn't belong there. So you're going to fall off like a little kiwi or what the fuck is it? The not lemmings. Are the lemmings? Yeah, lemmings are the ones.
Dodos.
But again, there's any option of thing that you want to do based on what your appetite, market exposure, risk to reward, and all the rest of that type of stuff. That is all more of a personal question on what you want to do based on your knowledge base.
Yeah, and if I could just add in just a little bit on that, when you're looking to do some sort of gamification of, all these different wallets, and you're thinking maybe you're thinking about compounding your yield, right? Say you're thinking about doing like this 30-day compounding, like after 30 days, I compound it, I put my yield back in, and I make another one, right? Keep in mind, every time you go into that pool, it's your tokens divided by the T-share rate. So so that will outpace your compounding, because in Hex, there's already a built-in mechanism to make sure the ratcheting up the T-share is to make sure you cannot game the system, right?
That's
so
correct.
because this is a different staking measure, you
Yeah.
still use the hex t-shirt rate. Isn't that amazing? Like,
Yeah.
It's
so
Longest
it's
takes
cool.
always
Engine,
win.
man. Well,
Yeah.
it's the steam engine. It's the front of the road, right? Everything
Mhm.
else is built on the wheel, right? Which is needed a horse. That's why it's important to understand the beast of burden aspect of everything else. Because what's the use of one wheel? Nothing.
Yep.
So true.
But I mean, I like Sloth's opinion on how to do that, but it is a little degenny.
Oh,
Well,
are
you
talking
better
about
bring
the,
him on if you
are-
want to
are-
talk about his strategy. You better
Are you
bring
talking about
Slothy on.
like taking out
Yeah.
your advance on the Hedron and doing all
Oh,
that?
I give him plenty of shit too when I pop into his fucking channel. I try to stay away from too many Telegram channels because it's just like 1,000 unread messages. But I give him proper shit too. It is a proper thing that you could do. You just have to really, really, really know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. So true.
Because again, when the Hedron price runs away from you, if you don't have that number of units set aside,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that that is there and you've already covered that basket. So what happens if you accidentally send something to a contract address, accidentally do this, accidentally do that? That's a whoopsie. Never, never, never. I always use the moniker always survive, never get caught. And it's not peer pressure, it's just your turn. So if you use those two together, you're in good shape. But always make sure you never get caught in a slippery slope situation.
Yeah.
I like how this is the most in-depth hint to a strategy I've ever heard.
Right? And these may change again. Even our hints, like we might discover more mechanics. I mean, if every time you think you've discovered all the mechanics, you're gonna find another one. Like
Yeah.
it's just bound to happen.
Exactly.
And just to answer the question in the chat, I just put that up, so I need to reset it, but it's a block clock. So that's the one that connects to the Wi-Fi, and it reads me Bitcoin spot price and Ethereum spot price every 5 minutes, and it just kind of flashes. But I have to reset it again. So
That's crazy.
Change it to a hexahedron and ICOSA.
it's an
Yeah.
antique. It's an antique now. So
What about you guys though? Vince or Gif, you guys have another strategy that we haven't mentioned on stream yet that you're considering, or have we covered all the bases really?
I don't really have anything on my end other than just reiterating that I think because everybody just has tons of Hedron, probably a lot that even hasn't been minted yet. I think lots of people are going to pile into the Hedron staking pool. So I see that as kind of the least lucrative part of the whole ecosystem. But I could turn out to be wrong, so we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? Honestly, it could be really lucrative. It depends. Like, I mean, what happens if people start just like EESing for whatever reason? You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guarantee you, I'm not touching any of my Hedron that I have. So what am I going to do? I'm going to stake it. Does that mean I'm not going to go into ICOSA? Does that not going to not also get my NFTs? No, it's an option. It's like having a palate. You want an appetizer, you want a main course, you want a dessert.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are specifically waiting for the AMR bonus to trigger, but it could be a while before we see that. So
I made that decision and I minted everything to be ready for all this. So
the only super obvious strategy I want to put in there real quick is if you're creating an HSI in order to sell to the contract, do a Quattrocinco. It's a free 10% bonus. And I don't think that's mentioned enough. So just be aware. Because ultimately that's pumping the hex bags too.
Yeah. I think we're like it's one of those things where you don't have a reason to do anything less than Quattrocinco really, because even if you don't use it for an HSI buyback, you'll maximize your credit line, so to speak, when if you want to use it to take out an advance or something like that. So yeah,
true.
And I've probably said this already on another stream, but when you're looking at the average stake length for an HSI, and keep in mind ICOSA is not even out yet, right?
Right.
For the average stake length for an HSI is 13.7 years.
Especially if you take the leniency, what I was talking about, the difference between ETH staking and Pulse staking, right? In Pulse, you have the common knowledge you can roll slowly or roll small and it's no big deal. On ETH, why wouldn't you?
That's so true. Man, guys, this has been an incredible stream. I thank you guys so much. Chat, thank you guys for being here. We've had 150, 160, 170, 180 people here for like the majority of this. Damn. if you're just getting here, you're going to want to go back and you're going to want to rewatch. There's been so many amazing insights and ideas that these guys have brought to the table here. So
is there any squirrel to get to work?
Yes, squirrel get to work. So guys, before we go, where can everyone find you if they want to connect with you or follow you on social media? How do they get a hold of you?
I don't do any of that. You either know how to get a hold of me or you don't know how to get a hold of me.
That's totally fair.
Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, or come into Telegram. You can find me on Telegram. You can also find me honestly I'm one of the mods on the Hedron Reddit. I know that sounds like old school stuff, but if you want to get direct questions, go on Hedron Reddit, ask a question, and I'm pretty much always there.
Lightware or Litecoinware may have a Hedron OnlyFans website coming up on the Hedron Reddit, because that's where that
coming soon
stuff is.
Oh my God.
Deeper and deeper, way down.
Oh God.
You're the coolest, bro. I love streaming with you.
Oh yeah,
the best.
All right, I'm going to talk to your Twitter and chat as well here real quick. So if anyone wants to follow him, this is his Twitter. Go ahead and follow him.
Thank you.
Nice.
Go ahead, Vince.
Oh, yeah, same for me. My handle's exactly the way it's spelled here. And mostly on Twitter, but I'm also on Telegram as well. So
Amazing.
yeah, same exact handle.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to toss yours in the chat as well. Guys, please go follow these gentlemen. Give them a follow. They're always commenting amazing things. There's even little comments. If you just by following these guys, not what they post as their posts, sometimes it's the comments too you got to watch for. Because some of the things that come out of different conversations and questions other people ask, you get some crazy answers you want to follow. So again, thank you three for being here. This has been an amazing stream. I know I've learned a lot. It's been difficult to follow along at times because I'm trying to do the chat and everything, but holy man, the amount of stuff you guys have said is just incredible. So again, thank you all for being here. It's great to connect with you all together.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. And we're not done. So
wait, there's more. Sunday.
Yes, exactly. Guys, there will be a stream going on Sunday. I don't know when it's going to happen specifically, but stay tuned on Twitter. If you're following GIF, you're following myself again at Cryptographics. If you haven't followed me already, and Vince as well, we're all going to be tweeting about what's going on here. Please pay attention. And as well, smash the like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thank you again.
Make alternate accounts, subscribe again, like again.
Yeah, exactly.
Alternate accounts. Next time, I want 5 accounts from everyone.
Exactly. 5 accounts to go with your 5 wallets to participate in the staking pools. So thank you guys. I see Sloth in here. It's over, buddy. Thank you for being here.
There you are. There you go. Come on.
Hashtag we are all the sloth.
We are all the sloth.
Yes.
Yeah, he's made it just in time to keep the title.
Squirrel probably sent him.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for being here. Love you all. We're going to see you guys very soon, either in this channel or another channel talking about ICOSA. Get excited. ICOSA launches tomorrow at midnight UTC. So that's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whew. I can't wait. Have a great night, everybody. Peace out.